We're getting new numbers on the impact of the coronavirus on the travel industry. The U.S. Travel Association is estimating 4.6 million travel-related jobs will be lost this year alone, and the worst could be yet to come. The travel industry is seeking $150 billion in aid, with the airline industry alone seeking a $50 billion bailout. But should these companies get relief with no strings attached? Joining us now, former Secretary of Transportation Ray LaHood and Douglas Holtz-Eakin, former Chief Economist for the President's Council of Economic Advisors and the President of the American Action Forum. Doug, $150 billion in aid. That includes the cruise line industry. Last I checked, the biggest cruise lines are registered in Panama and Liberia. Why don't they call them for help?
First thing I'd like to say is I'd like to endorse the diagnosis of Andrew Ross Sorkin. I think he got it exactly right, that the best way to help a large fraction of Americans is to make sure that their company doesn't disappear and their job disappear with it. We have an enormous liquidity crisis, and the government has the capability of getting the cash to those firms and keeping those jobs in place. And the conditionality that says you have to have 90% of your payroll there is fine. I think that's a good idea. When you look at the travel industry, you look at transportation, I think the important thing to recognize is that transportation is part of the supply chain in the economy. If it disappears, it makes the economic problem even worse. So it has a priority. I think the airlines have a very good case to be made that their liquidity crisis is enormous. They're burning through $10 billion a month. They have 20% capacity at the moment. They have no revenue. And we need to keep the medicines flying. A quarter of the cargo is going to come through this way. That's a priority. And I'd make the same case for freight rail if I saw a problem, or trucking. We need a vibrant supply chain, and we need the transportation sector to do it.
Secretary LaHood, you have a brand new op-ed out today saying just that the airlines need a lifeline. Moments ago, Lufthansa reported that they are grounding 700 of their 763 planes. What do you think needs to be done?
I think we need to get our economy moving again, and one of the best ways to do it is get the airline industry, when it's the appropriate time, get people back in the air, get people back on planes, keep the airline industry solvent. There's 750 million people who work for the airline industry. The money that comes from Congress should help them so that they can sustain their jobs and so that people can fly. The airline industry is a huge part of the transportation system of our country. And then when you look at the fact that 10 million people are affected, people that work in the restaurants, in the shops, in the airports, they're also affected. Many of them are laid off. And again, the money that goes to the airline industry can be money that can go into the pockets of the 750 million employees, and the industry can get back on its feet and people can fly again once that is made possible by the CDC. But we need a strong airline industry if our economy is going to get back on its feet again.
No doubt. Secretary, let's assume that happens. Let's assume we hopefully, pray, get back on our feet. Do the rules have to change? Because right now, there's a lot of Americans out there who say the airline industry should have had its own cushion. They spent 96% of their free cash flow on buybacks. Let's say we get through this. Do we need to change the rules of engagement of how they spend their money when they have it?
Well, look, as a former member of Congress, 14 years, I served on the Transportation Committee. I have no doubt that the package that's being put together is going to have certain stipulations and certain things that need to be followed. Number one, it has to be that the employees of the airline industry are taken care of. So the flying public, the pilots, the airline, the flight attendants, the mechanics, the people that keep the airplane safe, all of these people are so important. And so Congress is going to stipulate some criteria for the use of this money and how it should be spent. But without it, we're not going to have an airline industry, and our economy will continue to falter. People in America need a strong airline industry. Congress needs to support that. And if there need to be stipulations, so be it.
Doug, what do you think?
Well, if you look back to the post 9/11 era, we had the same situation. We needed to get the airlines flying to keep the economy strong and get through that. And the airlines got some support, but they also got some oversight. There was an air transportation board that put the stipulations on the loans that came out of that era. My reading of the history is that was a very effective mechanism, and it's something Congress ought to consider again.
All right, but let's look at 08. That wasn't the airline industry, but you saw banks make their way out, executives make more money than ever, and people who lost their homes in the subprime crisis still lost them. And think about the social uprising that created, Doug.
Yeah, this isn't the financial crisis. This isn't the self-inflicted wound that was the financial crisis with a lot of poor practices that came back to haunt everyone. This is a virus that has attacked Americans and has ground the economy to a halt. If you look back to the restaurant owner you just had on, that's a perfectly sound business. There's no mismanagement there, and they're broke. And we need to recognize that. And I think the word bailout's inappropriate here. This is really liquidity funding to get through a crisis, and these people need it badly.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.